Hi, I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're here at FedTalks with Susie Adams, Chief Technology Officer with Microsoft Federal. Susie, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you.
Glad to be here, Wyatt.
Let me ask initially, how has federal technology, from your perspective, played a critical role in 2020 as an unprecedented pandemic really rocked the nation and government also?
I think it's played a huge role, actually, and more so than I thought it would. So when we first started with the pandemic, in March, I remember coming home from vacation, a little nervous I wouldn't get back into the country, and not even knowing that I was going on vacation in a pandemic. And how quickly the agencies really reached out to ask for help from basic things like, how do we actually set our entire environment up to work from home? How do I allow meetings like this, like we're recording right now? How do I do that in a secure fashion? And I think that quickly they learned that they could actually stand up some technology they already owned, or enable their information workers to collaborate remotely with almost little or no change into the way that they were doing things. And while we hit some hurdles, obviously, things like the trusted internet connection in the civilian space, the requirement to VPN in, were causing some challenges from a bandwidth constraint. I think people realized, even OMB and CISA, looking at the trusted internet connection, that the new mandates that were out there could easily be implemented much more easily, I think, than most agencies thought in the past. And it probably would have taken a couple of years for people to be comfortable with this type of working. And now it seems like it's a matter of weeks, 9 to 10 weeks. The Department of Defense, we stood up, millions of accounts to allow Department of Defense personnel to work remotely to a point where some folks in the Air Force are saying, will we ever go back? Will civilians work from home for the foreseeable future, or work more from home? And so I do think not only the work from home, but then bots, things are adopting artificial intelligence, machine learning to help answer basic questions around COVID care for CDC. There was a bot that was launched that's still available. You can go to the CDC main site and click there's a green button on that page, and you'll be able to get all the information you need about COVID testing, COVID statistics, and what to do in case you have COVID. Whereas normally that would have been a help desk manned by humans. So starting to use artificial intelligence to really augment human capability.
Well, how can the federal government build on that momentum and maybe even leapfrog ahead in using modern and emerging technologies like cloud, AI, and automation, as you mentioned?
I think there's, I think they already are, for the most part. We're seeing a lot of requests for, how do we automate this manual process? How do we allow people to do some of the things that they were doing that were very manual before and required them to be in the office? How do I allow them to do this remotely? How do I provide access to services that citizens need from remotely? And how do I automate the typical process that surrounded that to better meet my mission goals and to improve on my mission goals? So I think some of that's already going on. I think the bigger challenge is going to be the workforce, and making sure that the workforce can be trained, not just in the newer technology, but in how to secure this new virtual landscape. Because now we have workloads that live on premise, in multiple clouds, people accessing them remotely through the internet, through VPN technology. How do I make sure that I'm getting the telemetry I need from all these different environments to secure the data regardless of where it lives? And I do think that that is one of the areas now that is front and center with most CIOs across the entire federal government.
Well, that's a good segue to my next question, which is, how is the federal government working in new and creative ways to bring in talented technologists to the federal workforce?
I think in a couple of ways. I mean, obviously, the millennial workforce, and now I can't remember what the name is, what's after millennial. I date myself here, but that workforce is very used to working remotely on almost any device, to using Snapchat, to being able to do their work from anywhere at any time during the day. And I do think that the adoption of the remote work from anywhere is going to help get some of the younger workforce into the federal government. I like a lot of the programs where they can come, where talented folks can come into the government for a couple of years and provide service to the government and then move on throughout their career. I think those are going to be critical. Those types of roles are going to be critical to advancing technology in the government. And then finally, I think it's training. And making sure that it's not just the technical training, teaching developers how to program, AI models or to become data scientists. It's how do we actually help them understand the value of this technology and how to re-engineer the way that they meet their mission needs. And I do think that not necessarily, there's institutional knowledge in some of the folks that have been doing these jobs for years. And so that is extremely important to be able to modernize some of these capabilities. And when I say modernize, I don't mean just, sprinkle new technology on top of it. What I'm really talking about is rethinking and reimagining the way that we're delivering citizen services or meeting the mission needs of whatever the particular agency.
And lastly, what other trends or priorities do you have on your radar as we head into 2021?
Well, when we think about where we're at as an industry, I think there's some really just amazing technology trends that I'm not sure people are really laser focused on. When we think about artificial intelligence, we're just scratching the surface of the capabilities that are being leveraged out there today. When I say artificial intelligence, they think of Department of Energy and the labs and folks with hyperscale traditional compute, which are big supercomputers, and data scientists writing these big mathematical models that are then running for hours, days, weeks, and months, and only available to a few people. Now that capability is really almost democratized. And we're taking it to the next level, which requires additional supercomputer capacity and supercomputers at scale, which I think people really haven't thought about. I think that space is super interesting. If you look at what SpaceX is doing by building basically an internet in space for in very simplistic terms by launching satellites. We recently announced a partnership with them to enable Azure to connect to that network, so that you'll now be able to connect globally and do things like downlinks from satellites. So think of NOAA. We're in a partnership with NOAA to be able to downlink data directly from the weather satellites to the forecasters almost in real time. So I do think that when we look at how technology is going to change the way not only we work, but how we live in the very foreseeable future, and I'm talking the next couple of years, I think people are going to be amazed. Not to mention how AI and machine learning will help us with the pandemic and allow scientists to more quickly fail at some of the experiments they're running. I mean, we have several instances of working with labs globally where a particular model might run for a vaccine in what would take months, and they're running it in days. And so I do think we're going to start to see some huge breakthroughs scientifically, as well as just in some of the world's biggest problems, solving some of the world's biggest problems.
Well, thank you for sharing some of the things that you're seeing right out in the not too distant future. And indeed, they do sound exciting. And as always, Susie, we appreciate your opportunity to just share some of the other insights that you're seeing in the federal government. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Wyatt. Have a great day.